Hi, my name is Harry T, and welcome to Odejuma. Odejuma recognizes the magic of storytelling, from personal experiences to stories of adventure, from tales of resilience to finding joy in the simple things. This story seeks to inspire, entertain, and educate because there is power in the stories of everyday people, and these stories are worth telling. Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Odejuma. I'm super excited about this one because I have someone who is super talented, very creative, another multi-hyphenated artist, and also a friend of mine. I have Rob Milton. Hi, Rob. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Harry?
I'm doing really awesome. Really excited to have you to dive into our conversation to talk through your work and your journey and your creativity and your career and everything in between. So we're just going to go ahead and start
Okay.
right now. Yeah, how did the journey start for you? When did you realize that music was your passion and something you wanted to explore?
You know what's funny? I have literally always been a creative person. I just did not realize that there was value to it because the way that my brain worked, I believed that everyone was expressing themselves the same way that I was. So I didn't. It didn't really hit me until I got to college and I started getting asked to lead solos in the choir, like stuff like that. And I'm like, me? Like I didn't, you know what I mean? Like my sister, I grew up with a sister who was like really, really into sports. And she played basketball and she was a cheerleader and she ran track. And so like I'm just at home, reading liner notes and like learning like the words to songs that just came out on the radio for the first time. I was that kid. Like my friend, like my family members would be like, "How do you know that song? It literally has only been on the radio once." But I just thought that that's how we all were. And then, like I said, I went to college and other people started seeing it in me before I saw it. And I'm like, okay, wait, there's something happening, man. And I just went with it. And so my last semester in college, a friend of mine, Jackie Hammond, invited me to the studio to record a song she was working on her first solo project. And she asked me to come record the song with her. And again, I was like, me? And she was like, yeah. And so we went and we wrote the song, which I believe she wrote the song and I helped a little bit. But we kind of like went through the vocal arrangements and practiced them a bunch of times before we recorded. And when we went to record, she was like, hey, have you ever done this before? And I had a little bit, but not like at this level of like fully getting an idea out in this way. And so I was like, not really. And she was like, I just want you to know that once we do this, you're never going to stop. Like, you're going to be addicted. And I was like, okay. And I literally have not stopped recording since that day. Like, I have not stopped recording and releasing stuff since that day. Rewind to prior than that, I grew up in like my church choir. I always say I think you had to be 6 to be in the choir, and I was in at 5, and like on the like board, like the president of the choir or something crazy, like at 5. So I've always like literally always been this person, but I just didn't realize that it was a unique thing. Like I literally just thought everybody's like this. And it's funny because, I didn't spend a lot of time with my father as a young person, but I rekindled a relationship with my brother on my father's side as I got older. And the first time we hung out, he was like, hey, what do you like to do? I'm like, oh, I like to sing and like write music. And he's like, yeah, we all do. But like, what do you like to do? I'm like, who is we all? Come to find out, like my father's whole family sings in quartets and all of this stuff. So like, in my somehow I want to say in my spirit I knew that because like I was the only person on my mother's side of the family that was this way, but I just thought it was natural. Like I really just thought like everybody, like even before I knew I was writing songs, I was writing poetry. You know what I mean? Like I've just always been a person who expressed themselves through creativity. And so it took some time, but once I realized that like what it really was and like who I really am, that was it. I dropped my first project in 2012 and I have not stopped releasing music since then. At least once to twice a year, every year since 2012.
That is amazing. And yeah, it seems like music is in your genes,
Yeah.
from what you described. So that's pretty cool. You talked about releasing music every year since you had that first experience with your friend when you worked on her project. And since then, in 2012, since 2012 till now, every year there's been an EP from Rob Milton or a project or music or something. What was the inspiration behind that? Because I feel like a lot of folks, and even for like back in the day when coming up in, well, I wasn't coming up in the music industry, but like, listen to music, I think an artist who put out, I think Brandy, for example, Brandy put out self-titled in 94, I think. And then her next album, Never Say Never, came out in 98 or
Mhm.
99. Then for like, there's usually all these breaks between like albums and stuff. What was your intention for, being like, I want to keep on putting out music, whether it is collaborative work or personal solo project?
Well, first of all, that is true that when we were coming up, there was a time, there was a gap. Like people would work an album. They could work an album for 3 years back then. But if you go back, there also was, when you look at the 60s and the 70s, there was a time where people were putting albums out. Like Aretha, before she really had a big break, she had like 30 albums. Like legit, you know what I mean? But honestly, Jackie put out Lazy Love. I think that came out. No, actually, I think I ended up putting out my EP first because I was so excited. You know what I mean? Like, and I was graduating. I graduated college, and it was just kind of like I remember. I think right after graduation, I posted like, "Oh, I have a secret or a surprise or something to share or whatever, very dramatic." But I put out my first project. It was an EP called Love Today on Bandcamp. And it like pretty much within a week within I posted it, pretty much within a week after I posted it, it was on a blog in Japan. And then shortly after that, it was Music Soul Child posted the cover of it on his Instagram. And again, it was
That
a
is
moment where I was
amazing.
realizing like, oh, because I wasn't like I didn't have at this point. Now Rob Milton today has connections and like all of these things, but at that point, I was just a kid who just got out of college who was like, I want to put out some music. Let's see what this gives. And when that was the response, I was like, oh no, you actually can do this. Like straight out the gate, someone in Japan like not only is listening but like feels the need to share. Like that's crazy to me. And so I just kept going. And the reason why I released so much was because, for one, the more I released, the more I was figuring out how everything works. And that's the thing about growing up with the internet is like, while technology is progressing, it was kind of it was kind of easy for me to grow with the times to a certain extent, you know what I mean, with social media and with like even being able to upload music where we used to use Bandcamp and then SoundCloud and then like, you know what I mean, all of these things, like I grew with that. So I was just processing and like, like Tisha Campbell says, it's the journey. Granted, there have been very many no's, very, very many no's along the way, but every yes was like a connecting dot to make me want to keep getting to the next one. And so something would happen and I would be like, okay, I got to do X, Y, and Z to try to get this. And then it would happen. And then Insecure and like all of these things that I have been like believing that I believe that I belonged in the world to do these things, but truthfully, the way that I show up in the world, I'm not supposed to be able to do that. Like I'm not supposed to be able to be successful. You know what I mean? Because of my size, because of my race, because of my sexuality, because you know what I mean? Like there are very many bullet points that say you're not supposed to be here, but like none of that was mattering. Like things were continuing to happen. And so I just believed that I could keep going. And so I kept going because I kept believing that I could keep going. And then it just came to a point where it just was who I am. Like, even if, even if I never release another thing, I'm gonna be at home with like, I'm gonna be at home with a vault full of like songs and albums and movies and whatever because it is just literally who I am as a person.
Yeah, and you said Tisha Campbell, it's the journey. It really is the journey, and this journey has been good to you.
Yeah.
You had
It's still love.
placements, like you said on Insecure. Yeah, you've had the Insecure moment happen. You are co-writer on Friends by Monica. You've had all these appearances and all these performances. What has this journey taught you? Looking back at this past decade of you being in this industry, what has this journey taught you so far?
Honestly, this journey has taught me, like, I think I went from not understanding that there was value in the way that I expressed myself to then knowing what the value really was and wanting everybody else to see it and, like, you know what I mean? Wanting everybody else to validate, like, oh, and it wasn't happening. And so I feel like I started, like, just trying so hard to get people to see it. And I think what it has taught me is that regardless of, at the end of the day, regardless of who sees it, regardless of if my album is number one in the country or number one in my apartment, it's who I am. You know what I mean? Like, it's who I am. Like, what I think we've kind of lost track of the fact that, especially when it comes to music and film and, like, this is the way that people express themselves. Like, this is like, people are telling their story. So to tell someone, like, the way you're telling your story, I don't like the way you're telling your story. Like, how could you know what I mean? So I think my biggest lesson has really just been understanding that at the heart of it, it's who I am. And so, like, people finally seeing it and understanding the value is great, but I'm not chasing that anymore. Even if, you know what I mean? Because it's also an up and down thing. And one day people see it for you, the next day they don't. And so you really do have to get to that space where you understand who you are for yourself, and that's all that matters. Because that's also how I've been able to do my best work is just being myself. It's just 100%
Oh,
being me. So
that's real. That's real. Thank you for sharing that piece. How would you describe your sound to someone who is trying to figure out who Rob Milton is? I know it's very like it's very R&B, it's very soulful. But how would you describe your sound from an artistic perspective?
a lot of people shy away from saying R&B, and I'm never going to do that. Never going to shy away from saying R&B because for me it's black music over everything. Like, it's always going to be that for me. I grew up in church, so gospel is absolutely going to be the core of what I do, but gospel and R&B are okay, they were sisters, like, like they belong together, you know what I mean? And so at the core of what I do is gospel. It is R&B, but it's black music. And black music is also pop music. The other day I made a rock song. Like, it really is just however I'm choosing to express myself that day, but absolutely at the core of it is R&B. And I think that's important to say because we're at the space where people enjoy having the conversation about what R&B is missing versus actually supporting R&B. And so one thing that I'm always going to do is be a lot of times, like, when the conversation happens on Twitter, I jokingly say, like, I have to now be like a Power Ranger for R&B because I'm always like fighting in those conversations. Because the thing that we don't talk about is the reason why R&B has like some has sort of been shrunken is because of the chase of money and the chase of, it's like we're trying to do what other cultures. We're trying to do what other cultures are doing in order to make money, and they're doing what we do and making money off of it. It's not for me. So it's always going to be R&B. When you think Rob Milton, think R&B for the rest of my life.
Amen. Amen. And I was gonna even ask because you talk about how at the core it's very R&B, it's very gospel. But I also know you've done other genres too. You've played with other genres too, and your work is very evident that it's not just like there are a lot of influences in there. There's R&B, there's soul, there's funk. There's gospel, there's some electronic, there's neo soul. All of this is very much infused in the work that you do and that you put out. I'm just curious about what is your creative process like? From idea to execution, how does that work for you? Where are you getting your inspirations from? All the tea.
So, first of all, at this point in my life, I work a lot in collaboration with Dana Johnson, who is the husband and co-producer and co-writer to Every Sunshine. And so he co-produces a lot of pretty much most of my stuff, my solo stuff, as well as the group that I was in, Cousin. And so it varies. First of all, my writing for the most part is like straight just diary. Like it's straight, not to sound like Jay-Z, but like I don't write down anything. I will hear the music and just begin to catch something and I'll record it, whether I record it in a voice memo, or whatever the case, or whether I just plug in the mic and just automatically start recording. But it's honestly pretty much like straight from the heart to the microphone. And granted, like sometimes I write like, you know, if it's like a prompt, you know what I mean? Like I can write based off you saying like I need a song that's like X, Y, and Z or whatever, sure. But for the most part, like solo Rob Milton stuff is this is how I felt today. Or like this is a thing that I wasn't able to communicate verbally, and so I'm communicating it in a song. And that has gotten a bit tricky over the years. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
eventually people start asking like, "Are are you talking about me?" And that gets awkward. But you know, it's real. Like, I write my life. I write my life.
That is really good to know. And speaking of your writing, the new single is Chains.
Yes,
This is with Kristen Lowe. Did I get that right?
it's Kristen Lowe
Kristen
and
Lowe,
the
yeah.
Lowe sisters. Yeah, she's super
Yeah.
incredible. She sung background for Ari Lennox, Anita Wilson, and like quite a few really incredible people. But she, in her own right, is incredible. And this actually, so Dana Johnson has a thing he does on Instagram called I think something like Jam of the Day or Vibe of the Day or something where he just like cuts his camera on and just starts like producing a track. And so those are just tracks that he has like laying around on his computer. And so I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw it was like an older one of these. And so I text him like, where's this? He went in and sent me the track and I wrote the first verse and the hook. And I hit Kristen like, yo, I've been watching Ray Charles videos and I'm like really, really obsessed with Ray Charles and his background singers, the Raelettes. And I want you on this record, but I want it to feel like that. Like I wanted to feel like Ray Charles and his background singers, and then one steps up to the mic to do a solo, and that's really exactly, absolutely, positively what it sounds like. Like we really hit my inspiration 100% on the head, and so it feels like Ray Charles, it feels like Aretha, it feels like all of those people who taught me what music really is. And that is so like it feels really good to me to have something like this in my catalog.
That is pretty cool. And how would you describe the reception to the track? How folks responding to Chains? Have you got any like cool feedback from folks who are like your peers or in the industry? What has that been like for you?
So, you know, I released it on my birthday. And so I haven't really been able to like really get into what people are saying about the song because it was my birthday. So it was, you know, mass hysteria. It's Rob Milton Day. You know what I mean? But honestly and truly, again, like I hate to say it like this, but it is my truth that the song is the song, like regardless of feedback. You know what I mean? Like I absolutely want everyone to hear it and to love it as much as I do. But it's kind of like your kid. Like you can't tell me about my kid. You know what I mean? You can't. I already know. I already know how good my kid is. Like if you come tell me like, oh, your kid was so good today. Like it's like, oh, thank you. But like, I know because my kid is good. And that's how I feel about my songs. I hope everybody feels like that about how they express themselves. But yeah,
Yeah, but I felt like you have to have gotten to a place of knowing to be able to have that confidence and like, it is my song. I
yeah,
really don't care what you think about it. Like it's a good song,
yeah,
it's artistic. How did you get to that space? I'm really curious about that because I feel like there are folks who are gonna be listening who are like, I really want, especially when you're like,
yeah.
emerging in this industry where, you really want to be liked and desired. How do you navigate that?
Well, the truth is, the music industry is a place where you really have to walk in the room knowing what you bring into the room. Because when you walk in the room and you're unaware of what you bring, it's so easy for you to get taken advantage of. And so, truthfully, I was walking into rooms and realizing, like, no, 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 no. No, I know who I am. I know what I'm bringing here. I know what you'll get out of me being here. Honestly, what brought me here is the journey. Like if that's the only way I can put it. What brought me to this space of confidence in my music, in myself, and in my dreams. It's just the journey. It's the journey. And I know that might not be like, it's not, I can't give you a tutorial of like how other people can do it, but I can tell you, and this is going to sound so old, but like keep living. I swear to God, you'll get it. Like you'll get it. You'll get it.
Yeah, you know they say experience is the best teacher, right? And I feel like that is what you're saying. It's like I've been in the space for a while. I've had all these experiences. I've seen people come and go. I'm still here, and so heck, with time, you also will learn and you will see how to stand on business when it comes to like your work and your art. Earlier on, you talked about how there's like a checklist of things you have to navigate, being in this industry, talk about your sexuality and all these other things. How does that come into play in your work? Because I feel like a lot of times when we're creating work, the personal always influences the artistic process. So how does that work for you, and how do you navigate that when it comes to your art making?
You know, I grew up in the church, and so sexuality in general, like sex in general, is just a conversation that's like taboo and that you don't have at all. You know what I mean? And so growing out of that, I initially was at a space where I felt like I want my art and my sexuality to be completely separate. I think this part of my life deserves to be private, and I don't want it to, I felt like I don't want it to overshadow. I don't want it, I didn't want it, I didn't want to be a gay artist. You know what I mean? And if again, I think it was the confidence and the understanding and the finding strength in myself and strength in who I am and not being ashamed of it helped me just like naturally, the things just naturally merged. Like, I can't think of a moment where I was intentional, like, I'm gonna be gay as hell with my music today. But eventually it just like happened because it's just who I am. You know what I mean? It's just who I am as a person. And the what I've 100% done my best at doing is with whatever I'm creating being a 100% me. And so after a while, it was just kind of like to try to continue to keep this over here is almost beginning to feel like hiding. And I never really also was interested in hiding either. I just also am a very private person. And so it really was the battle of finding a balance of maintaining my privacy, but also just being who I am. And I think I've done a good job at it. I mean, if I haven't, I will get better. But I think I've done a good job at it. I do still, I enjoy the idea of my music being universal. Like anyone, anywhere being able to pick up one of my songs and sing the words and not feel isolated. But I do have moments where I feel like this is for the little boy that needs that representation. You know what I mean? So I do have moments where I just like completely give it. Like I do have some songs where it's like, no, this is specifically for a young black queer, possibly fat boy who needs to hear Rob Milton so that he knows, oh shit, I can do that too. Can you do we bleep me out if you need me to? I cuss. But I
You
just
can curse. You can
okay.
curse. Feel
I
free.
just,
Feel
I just
free.
sometimes when I'm writing, I realize like, no, this is important for him to know. You know what I mean? And so I really am still working on keeping a balance of I want everyone to be able to feel it, but I also want some stuff is really, really for him. You know what I mean? And so yeah.
Yeah, and by writing and creating music that can connect to that boy, you're also helping a bunch of other kids who are navigating that also. Curious, what song, like, what do you think is for young Rob who's figuring out life and sexuality and existing in a fat body? What song would you think, folks who are having that experience as young Rob can go listen to in this moment?
Yeah, I have a song on my album called All Boys Cry, which is called Waiting. First of all, I was intentional about the name of All Boys Cry because for a few reasons with that album. Because for one, I'm a Cancer, and the first song I wrote for that album was called Cry. And this, like, the story that people tell is that like cancers cry all the time and they're like overly emotional or whatever the case may be. And so part of it for me was like not just cancers, but like we all cry, like because we're kind of all human and everybody cries. So that's like kind of the silliest thing. But then I was also intentional about the boy of it all because I had an experience as a kid where I was at my grandmother's funeral. I come up from a family of mostly women, like my grandfather and then me. You know what I mean? But anyway, my grandmother had passed away and I was at the casket, and this is so dramatic this is so dramatic, but my grandmother passed away and I was at the casket, and someone that I love dearly told me to stop crying because I'm the only boy in the family. And they meant well, but again, it was just kind of a recurring thing for me to acknowledge the fact that boys, men, whatever, we're everyone is human and everyone has emotions. Everyone cries. And I think people are scared. Like people were scared to, even when I was naming the album Always Cry, I remember one person I was working with, I told them that that was the name of the album. And they were like, that's actually really cool. But I don't want to be on that one. I want to be on it. And so like I feel like people were a little bit scared. And I don't think I had ever been brave in that way with my art, as little as to me small as that is. It was almost a way of being rebellious. But anyway, reading um is really again kind of a moment where I was saying you already know who you are and what you bring to the table. So what are you waiting for? Like, why are you waiting for everyone else to acknowledge it or validate it or whatever? Why would you be waiting for that? Like you and I, me and you looking in the mirror here, we're eye to eye and we're 100% aware of what it is. So stop
Yeah.
waiting and just go be and go do. And I would absolutely say that's for him, for sure.
So, speaking of Always Cry, I realized that you had the iconic B Slade on the project. B Slade,
Yes.
for folks who know all the way back, has been making music for the longest time and is great at it. So how did that come about? How did that connection happen? Talk about that for a bit.
So I grew up um a huge fan of B Slade, formerly Tone. When as a kid it was Tone. But B, like him as well as Georgia and Muldrow were two artists that um I really, when I started making music, I mean, I had already been a fan of his, but when I started making music, they gave me the freedom to just release as often as I did. Let me say that. Because they were two artists that I loved and they were like constantly releasing full bodies to work at this era of my life. And it was like back to back, like banger albums, like top to bottom. I'm like, my God, this is what I want to do. Also, I want to know these people. I want to work with these people. But like, growing up in the church, we all knew the God is not forgot and all of that. But that truthfully, the era in which he transitioned brands, I should say, I began to have a level of respect for him in a way because having seen all that he went through and still releasing music at this level and at this quality made me believe like, you can do it. Like you can, because the other part of being an artist that is often not talked about, especially in this era, is that life be life, and to us, the way that it happens to y'all, but it's even worse
Mm-hmm.
because we're investing all of our time and money and energy into being a creative, right? And that
Mm-hmm.
costs so much more than people really understand. But I say all that to say, I just have always been a fan of not only his voice, but his songwriting, his production, just the way he pieces things together. In some ways, I believe that we are kindred spirits. And through time on the internet of me supporting and just listening, I mean, you know me, like, I'm really big on like posting the music that I'm listening to and letting the artist know that somebody's listening. And so he kind of has just always respected that about me. And we've always through the internet talked here and there. And during the pandemic, I just got bold and I was like, I really want to do a song with you. And he was like, let's do it. And I was really shocked. And so we did it. And I sent him, there was a song initially that I asked him to get on, but it didn't work out. And then I sent him in with, again, with my verse and with the hook. He loved it so much. Which the part about that is crazy is the sound is a very like 80s inspired sound.
Mhm.
But he has an album called DeLorean, which is 80s inspired. And while I'm absolutely inspired by the original sounds that happened in the 80s, that song specifically, honestly, was inspired by that album. And so I think that that is what even more so helped was that whether he knew it or not, I was writing as if it was a part of his old album. You know what I mean? And so he got it and was like, it's like you understand me. Like it was just very much like sensei meets student and like, wow. But also as a young church kid to know that I was having this moment with him and that we saw each other, as Dini would say, really is something that even to this day, I don't think that I have gotten over because the song is so beautiful and the way our voices blend together is so beautiful. And it's honestly one of my favorite songs in my catalog for sure. And I often think if I was to meet Beyonce and I had one song to play for her of mine, it would be that one. It would.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You have my curiosity piqued again. So I'm gonna ask what are some of your favorite songs? We've talked about Waiting, we've talked about the song with B Slade, but what are some songs of you that you really really like that you're
Okay.
like, damn, I really put my foot in this. This is such a dope song. If you have like five to name off the
Five.
top of your head of
Okay.
songs that you say these are like the iconic Rob Milton classics that everybody needs to listen to.
I'm not gonna say these are the iconic Rob Milton classics because I feel like that's a different thing. But
Okay, okay, okay,
if I could
okay.
pick five of my favorite kids, okay, it's gonna be
Mhm.
NT and B Slade without a question. It's going to be my song Comfortable, the solo version. While I love, love, love the cousin version, the solo version is to me one of my best vocal performances recorded to date, in my personal opinion. So end Comfortable, and then I'm gonna say Roller Coaster. I think that Roller Coaster is absolutely slept on, and I think that it is a like timeless song, if I can say so myself. So that is and Comfortable Roller Coaster. And then I'm going to go the very first song that I recorded with my friend Jackie Hammond. I'm going to say Lazy. To this day, that is one of the best things that I've ever been a part of. And her and I have recorded very many songs together. But that one is just something that is undeniable. Undeniable. And then I'm actually gonna Sons of the James album, which is an album between myself and a producer, DJ Harrison. It was released on Fresh Select's label. And the song with Georgia M. Joe was on Insecure, all of the things. But the song that I'm going to go with is called Can't Believe You Love Me. That is one of the most beautiful things I've ever done in my life. And it's very interesting because
Mm,
at that point in my life, so, I talked about how a lot of my writing is very personal, very much from the heart, very much what I'm dealing with at the time. Well, at that point in my life, I was not dating anyone. I was not involved in that way at all. I was just really like working. So I really don't know who I was talking about. Like I have no idea what I was writing about, but it is absolutely one of the most beautiful songs I've ever written. And if I could give a bonus, I would do Asterisk I Wonder by Avery Sunshine, which is a song that I co-wrote during the pandemic that fast forward is a part of her now Grammy Award winning album. So glad to know you.
mm.
So yeah,
A round of applause for that.
absolutely.
That's a nice drop and a nice way to end it. Yeah. Shout out to that. Um, I'm super excited for folks to be able to get into your music. I think your music is
Yeah.
really good. I think you're really talented. I have my own personal faves.
Really?
Uh, I like Over a lot.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Um,
Over.
yeah,
So
I like Over a lot.
fun fact,
What?
Over was written. I had gotten approached about being signed for a publishing deal for a redacted person's publishing company. And
Okay.
sent me to some sessions to write with people who were already working with that company. And that was a song that I created in that space. And a lot of times with those spaces, nothing happens with those songs and then they just exist like in someone's hard drive. And so when I got to LA, I was like, knock, knock. Remember that song we did in 2020? Go on and send me that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt like it needed, like it really was so beautiful and so well written. And I
Yes.
felt like it deserved, and I'm glad that I was able to give it life and outside of someone's computer.
It is a really beautiful song. I like it. I know
Yeah.
it's short and everything, but it's the way you're singing on the song. It's
Yeah.
the goodbye of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I really like that. I really like that one. I like Wish You
Yeah.
Well. I
Yeah.
like
Back to
Back to
Fun Tomorrow.
Fun. Yeah. And it has a nice group to it. So
Yeah.
yeah. Like you said, you celebrated your birthday. You were in this new iteration of your journey. What is this new chapter looking like for you musically? I know you've put out Chains, but what should we expect from this new chapter from Rob Milton?
So you know what's funny? I put out Chains, and before Chains, I put out Honey, and I was actually working on an EP. So there are a couple more songs from that space that I'm still figuring out. Like, am I going to make an EP or just drop those separately and go ahead? Because I am really interested in doing an album again. It's been a while. I put out Always Cry the same. It was it the same year or like a year or so in between with the Sons of the James album, and since then I haven't given a full haven't really given the full shebang. And so I would love to do that. But right now it's just, going with the flow of life and, you know what I mean, trying to really step out more with the content of it all. We got to do social media. My girl Twinkie said computers rule the world, but God is still in control. And I'm just trying to hold on. But I'm really just trying to get out there more, have my face out there more, my energy out there more, so that these songs can be heard by more people. It should have 20 million streams if you ask me. And so whatever I have to do to get my song, to get that, I'm gonna do that. Also, this year is the year that we got the Grammy for Avery's project. And so I've also been turning a lot of my energy more there. And so it should be announced by the time this comes out, but I was a part of the Grammy Next program, and I was able to kind of like hang out with with other songwriters and other creatives and talk about our journeys and listen to them talk about their journeys and offer us advice and all types of cool things. And so that's been really cool. At the end of the day, with Avery's project, I receive a certificate that will say winner. But my goal is to have a trophy. And so I've really been turning my attention to continuing to understand that system and how that works and how I could conquer that. You know what I mean? So yeah. But as far as sound wise, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. Like stuff is just, you know what I mean? Honey sounds nothing like Chains. I have another song in the chamber called Cake. Cake sounds nothing like Chains and it sounds nothing like Honey. And so who knows? But just know it's gonna be
What is
black as hell. Always.
okay. I'm here for it to be black as hell.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask what is cake about because I was like cake. Is it about like actual cake?
I'm not ready to. It's just it's one of those moments where it's definitely for for us. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool, 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 cool.
It's a little hot and heavy, a little bit. You know what I mean? I have my homegirl Aria Linnell, I believe is how you pronounce her name. She's on it. She actually just dropped this fire record called Meow. Yeah, but she's on Cake, and yeah, you'll see. You'll see. It's
Okay,
definitely.
cool.
It might be a little surprising. It might be a little like you might choke on your water a little bit, but you're also gonna love it.
Okay. Okay. I am excited about it. I'm excited about
Yeah.
it. Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing. Before we start to wind down, I do this trivia section where I just, it's like rapid fire questions that people
Okay.
can get to know about you, like some like really, really fun things to know. And so I think the first one is what are the current top 3 songs on your playlist as of now?
Okay. My top 3 songs right now. Meow by Aria Linnell. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. Because we talk to people on the internet, but we don't say it out loud. So then when you
Yeah.
say it out loud, you're like, is that? But okay, yeah, but it's this record called Meow, and then I'm actually loving the SZA and Lizzo record, IRL. So that, and also like Haley 47. Honestly, her whole project, but I love Starstruck and Sandhills. Sandhills is like, yeah, I'm the type of person that like when I like a song, I literally can listen to it on repeat for hours at a time. And all of these songs I have been doing that for the past couple of weeks. So yeah. But also number 4, Chains by Rob Milton featuring Kristen Lowe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Get into Chains, Get into Chains by Rob Milton.
do
Okay,
that.
cool. So we have those ones. What are 3 albums to get to know you?
Okay. Knowing by B. Slade, The Breakthrough by Mary J. Blige,
Okay.
and Full Moon by Brandy.
Okay. Everybody
Yeah.
loves Full Moon. And I love Full Moon. I think Full Moon is a great album. I love
Yeah.
Full Moon. But
But
I'm
it's like
like, y'all
but,
don't
and
show
there
Never
is
Say
no
Never
but.
Any
There is no
Love. I
but.
like I love Full Moon. I think Full Moon is a great album. Full Moon is
Yeah.
definitely in her top 3. Like Never Say Never is right there, y'all. I need y'all to get into Never Say
And
Never. That's her best
Aphrodisiac.
album.
And hell, 211, B7. But Full Moon for me, like literally when I travel, I listen to Full Moon because it's a comfort album for me. Like when I'm walking through the
Um,
airport, I'm listening to Full Moon. You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah.
Full Moon for me is like Living Single. Like Living Single is my favorite show of all time. I watch it every single day. That's what like Full Moon is like. It's like my blanket. You know what I mean? Like
That's real.
yeah, yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that totally. Who are the top 3 artists you want to collaborate with, aspirational, that you be like, before I leave this earth, I want to work with these 3 artists? Who are they?
So first of all, I would have said B Slade, and thank God. I would have said Georgia Mo, and thank God. I will say Beyonce. I will say Brandy. And he's not an artist, but I want to work with Questlove in some capacity. Absolutely.
I can see that. I can see that. I think that y'all will make really great music together. Actually,
I
you
would
and
love
Questlove.
to have him involved in the Rob Milton universe. That would be really cool.
Okay, cool. I'm excited about that. Are there any non-music hobbies that you think that you have currently that is taking your time? Apart from being a full-on musical creative.
That's funny because coming to LA kind of makes you really get into like all of the pieces of who you are. And so, I've always had an interest in acting, in and comedy and all of the things. In college, I played the lead character in Fences. People may not have known that, but like, so it's crazy because for the last month, I've been going to improv class, and it has been the most amazing thing. I go with this troupe called Bernie Mac and Cheese, and it's been so much fun. It's been like, I hate to make everything like dramatic, but it's really been not dramatic, but what's the word I'm trying to say? Deep. I hate to make like everything like super deep, but it's been transformational for me because while I'm very unserious, like, I'm silly and I play like, everybody that follows me on Twitter and all those places, they know, but I'm also very serious. And like, I'm not normally the person that's going to be the first person to like jump in the middle of the floor and like do an 8 count. You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of in real life, I'm a bit reserved, and I often like play my part of the room, and you know what I mean. But with this
Yeah.
class, and it's been pushing me to be more willing to step out and to be more willing to say something without having thought about it for an hour. You know what I mean? It's been pushing me to believe in my first thought and really be willing to just like step out and not let anxiety or whatever it is hold me back from just the smallest things. And so it's been fun. Like, I'm silly. Everybody knows I'm silly. So like that, it's been fun also being able to, I often like have tweets that go viral and like People magazine and like all of this stuff, like writing about my funny tweets. But it's different to stand in a room full of people and to say something funny that you just like made up off the top of your head in that moment, and to receive the energy in that way, honestly, 10 out of 10. Far better than the internet interaction, honestly. It really is. It really is. And so that's been fun. And so that's the thing I would say. I've been doing improv.
That is pretty cool. So we're gonna see you guest starring on a show, or even maybe being a main star. You're gonna be in your acting bag really soon.
So with Avery Sunshine's album "So Glad to Know You" last year, we turned every song into an episode of a show, and so we had a pretty much like a limited series called "So Glad to Know You," named after the album. And initially, I came in as sort of like a creative director, creative manager, but she ended up asking me to be in the show, and so that was kind of the reigniting of that flame that I had, because when it comes to music, is like it's something that you have to very much tunnel vision on, and like I feel like I needed to solidify myself in this space before branching out to other things, but now I'm getting back there. And that was kind of like the kickoff of it, because with that I got to really like play with Avery on camera, and she is honestly, her and her husband as well as her children, like they're like family to me. So being able to do it there was really cool, because we know each other really well, and like we already have like inside jokes and stuff like that. And so like to be able to turn that on camera, that chemistry is something that I don't know if you can create on the set. And so that kind of being my first thing back into that space made it easy. And now I'm just I'm open to whatever. Yeah,
That's
I'm
cool.
down for
That's
whatever.
pretty cool.
Well, it's
Yeah,
Hollywood, so maybe not whatever, but I'm down.
from your lips to God's ear, to your lips to God's ears, definitely. Final question in this section is: what is your guilty pleasure?
Hmm. My guilty pleasure. I mean, I live in LA, so like I smoke a lot of weed. Does that help?
Okay.
I mean, I would say also like my guilty pleasure is like watching stuff that I know is terrible, but
Mm.
everybody's talking about it, and so I want to watch it.
Like hate watching a show that you know is bad, but you're like, I'm just gonna watch this and
Like
like give
watching
my
the work of
commentary
a
as I
certain
do.
director. We won't say his name, but you know what I mean. But you know what I mean.
You know, I hear you loud and clear. There's a yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I would say that as well too. My friends hate it. They're like, Rob, you literally don't have to have FOMO over stuff that you know is not bad. But as a media like person,
Connoisseur.
I know what it is. Like, but also that's to me is how you stay relevant. Like that's how I'm able to even continue to making jokes on Twitter that go viral, because I'm keeping up to date. Now, some stuff at this point in the world has gone too far where it's like I can't anymore. You know what I mean? But some stuff I can still
Yeah.
dabble a little bit and get a laugh here or there.
We deserve a laugh. We deserve a laugh. I love when you
Put
go
it like
viral on
that.
Twitter. I've been
Yeah.
seeing your tweets. I'm like, Rob, oh my God. But it's good. It's great. I love it. I'm here for it all the way.
My favorite notification is when I get a notification from Twitter when it's someone telling me to put my phone down.
Yes,
I want
yes.
y'all to know that
I like they're gonna pull up on you real soon, bro. They're gonna pull
every
up on you
time
real
y'all tell me to
soon.
put my phone down, I be in here so weak. Like it is my
I'm like,
favorite thing. But like
so
truthfully,
badly behaved.
even all of that for me is intentional, because I genuinely believe that a part of my purpose here is to bring joy. Like, I really think that we get caught up in all of the things happening in life, and we don't remember to not only seek joy, but to like hold on to it. And so it's just really important to me to be that. It's really important to me to be that.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think this last question, sometimes people are always like, oh, why are you asking this? But I feel like, regardless of where you are in your journey, I feel like, or who you are, I feel like we all have the power to make an impact in people's lives. And I'm curious to know, what do you want your legacy to be, as someone who is trying to make a name for themselves, as an artist in this time where it's harder
Yeah.
to even be an artist now? What would you want your legacy to be, if you don't mind sharing?
I want a few things to be remembered. He was black, he had joy, he was talented, he spread joy, and I can do it. I can believe that I can do it because he believed that he could do it and he did it. Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah.
That's real. And you know, I feel like you're already an inspiration. People already know they can do it because of you. We see how hard you grind. We see how hard you work. Folks that follow you on social media, like I do know, that you're very hardworking, and and it's not easy to put out music, every year. It's an investment. You know, it's like you're doing it yourselves. You're pushing and you're pulling through, but you're doing it and you make it look effortless. And I know it takes a lot of work
Yeah.
to do it, but you do it so effortlessly. And the music is actually also quality. So it's not like you're making, you know, crappy stuff. So just want to let you know that you're doing amazing.
Thank you.
We are
So,
inspired, you're sharing joy. And yeah, we love you and we support you and we're rooting for you all the way.
and like I was saying, also, so are you. Like, I want you to know that you creating this space, not only for you to tell your story, but for other people to tell their story is important. And your theater content is so cool. And like, I hope that you keep doing it and really continue to help change the face of what people believe a theater fan looks like.
Mm.
Because we be in there too.
Yeah, we are there. We are there. And I remember,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is another segue. Hold on, because you know we love a segue. But I saw the Bob the Drag Queen. That was hilarious. I was like, another reason why I was like, we need to be flogged. But
Yeah.
to be fair, I started to realize that like we don't talk about those black plays as
Hmm.
theater. When we
Yeah.
talk about theater, we talk about it has to be done in a certain way, a certain
Mhm.
aesthetic, whether it's on Broadway or off Broadway with, you know, some kind of playwriting. Like
Yeah.
growing up, I used to watch those black plays on DVD to Tyler Perry plays, watched a bunch of them
Yeah.
with the music and all of that. Like, and they used to have me, you know, stuck on the screen. And so I'm like,
And
that is also theater.
in some ways, that's the first way that very many Black people are introduced to theater. And so, like, if I started there and then I later get to go see Gypsy or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it still was an introduction. And I hate to always turn to this, but like, if you really look at the heart of it, the thing that makes us separate them is racism. Hello. So at the end of the
Mm,
day, it is what it is. Do I think that
yeah.
there are differences in the storytelling and maybe even differences in the quality? Yeah, because there are differences in the resources, but it's absolutely musical theater for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because and they're singing down. They're singing down. They're
Some of the
singing
people singing in those plays could sing circles around the
yeah.
girls. So, like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? So, yeah, maybe they
Yeah.
haven't had the training. You know what I mean? They might not hold their toes a certain way, but baby, when they pick that mic up, you know what I mean? And they have people leaving those theaters, those often what was called chitlin circuit theaters, people leave those theaters changed. You understand?
Mm,
Like they leave those
yeah.
theaters, their life is changed. And so
Yeah.
again, one thing about me, if it's black, I'm screaming for it. Oh, and if it's black and queer, I'm shouting for it. Like, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
are often like it also just it's always the underdog. Like I'm always rooting for the one who is not supposed to. Because what does that
Hmm.
even mean? Like we're here, we're all supposed to. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here for it. I want to see because I never got to experience those plays in person because I
Yeah.
only watched them. I only saw the at church. You know, they will sell the bootleg copies.
Yes. Baby, we used to
At
bootleg
my
that
church
man
back
stuff
in
so
Nigeria. Yeah,
bad.
that's all I was able to watch. So those were the plays that I saw, and actually, I really enjoyed them. I really liked them, and
Yeah.
so you talking about it now brought it up to my head that I'm not. You know what? I don't see, and I don't live in the South. Maybe that's why I never get to know when those
Yeah.
plays are airing. But it's like now when you talk about theater, there is a certain it has to be look a certain way or sound a certain way or but like and we have those that is also theater and that is even a way more accessible theater than the
Mhm.
theater that y'all are putting out in New York and in all these places, which I do love also, but I feel like there's room for everything and you brought that up in
Yeah.
that interview, so shout out to you for that.
Yeah. Even when I'm being
Yeah.
silly, there's a method to my madness. You know what I mean?
There is a method to the madness. But yeah, thank you, Rob. Very, very appreciate you for being here, for spending time with us and talking with us. And for the folks at home, thank you so much for watching on YouTube or listening, whether it's on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you stream your podcast. Very appreciative. Don't forget to check out Rob Milton's new song. It's called Chains, and it's everywhere you can stream your music. Thank you again, Odejuma.